All right, so we have seen some theory about the variables. So now let's get our hands into the action with the variables. And today we are going to continue with our old progress. We have seen about the blueprint actor interface. I mean actor blueprint interface, which is here. Now we know about the different kinds of window and different kinds of option and what they will do within the blueprint. So we know that already. So today we are going to talk about the variables, right? Variables. So what is the common definition that we can see with the variables? First of all, what is meant by variables? I will give you the one more general definition, a quick glimpse. Variables are the fundamentals, I will call it as the building blocks of storing and manipulating the data or things. Okay. For example, like I said, the variables will occupy some space in the memory and it will hold the type of data that you need. So what is the type of data? So if you need to declare a variable, you need to give two parameters, two things you need to consider those things. One is what is the type of data the variable is going to hold and what is the identifier, I mean name of the variable. So each and every variable should need to differ so that as a programmer, as a blueprint developer, it's your job to give different names for the variables, else uh, things will get messed up when the project is getting bigger and bigger. You need to maintain a consistency, right? So it's your job to give them unique names. So main purpose of using the variables is that we need to work with the data dynamically during the execution of the program by assigning the values to the variables and manipulating through those variables with the operations functions. Even we can create these kinds of red color things which we call it as events. So we can create the events and we can alter the variable so that it will create the interactiveness in our product. It can be a game, it can be a software or whatever. Okay, so that's a short glimpse about the variables. Now we will get straight into the point, like is there really we have any variables at the right now? Yes. So if you go to the sphere here, if you go to the sphere variable, you can see under the variable section. Okay, variable section is here. Under the variable section, under the components category, I will tell you how to create the category, but now it is under the components category. So this is sphere. So we already know this is the sphere, I mean this is the static mesh component. So if you click on if you click the sphere in the static in the components tab, you will see the details panel will show different kinds of option. But if you click the sphere variable here, so it will only show the limited amount of options here that belongs to the particular sphere. All right. So now the details panel we will see now, but before that we are going to create and start working with the basic kind of variables, because sphere we call it as a object reference to some component. But before that we need to understand what is meant by data type. And I told, right, if you need to write a variable you should need to consider two things. One is data type and another one is variable name. So I'm going to create a new variable. So you can see here this plus icon. I'm going to click it here. So I'm going to create a new variable. So that should be meaningful, right? So in the future I'm going to use it as the damage, so I can give it as damage. All right. So now if you see here, this is the name I have given. Okay. If I given the name, I'm going to give the data type. So here you can see this icon, this here, this is called data type. So data type, that is that you need to define as a developer. It's in your hand, like what is the data type that this variable belongs to. Like for example, I will explain the common data types that you can probably see and you can use mostly in the Unreal Engine. So Boolean. Boolean means this variable now become a kind of variable that holds the data about which will the answer will be like this variable's output will be like true or false. So Boolean type of data, it is mean that it will give true or false. And second one is byte. So most probably you won't use the byte data type in the Unreal Engine. I mean most probably, I'm not saying completely. Okay. So byte means you will get allocated to the 8-bit number. So it will consume very short amount of memory which will be used in some use cases. Maybe later on in this course when we are doing our final project we will explain that. I will explain that. Integer. So this is one of the very common data type that you will use in your program throughout those things. Um Integer means from negative infinity to positive infinity, any numbers between them you can use it. And integer in Unreal Engine, the integer is around 32 bits. Okay, it's around 32 bit. So which means it will consume 32 bit of memory inside the RAM. Okay, and similarly we have the integer but it will hold 64 bit. So based on the amount of digit this you can use it, but most probably in the engine you will use the integer variable and that's more than enough. Okay. Float. So float means um, it will hold the decimal values. Okay. If for example let's say if you ask me to give you a example, I can simply say health. Okay. Most of the games if you see the health variable will be float data type. Okay, like if I damage the player the health will be like 85, maybe the damage is around 15, then my health will be like out of 100 minus 15. So now my health variable will be like float data type which is like 85 point f. Okay, I'm saying in terms of the programming, but general health is mostly used as the float data type. Okay, now we are going to move on to the next data types which is name, string, text. So all three things used to describe about the string. I mean the letters or characters you are seeing in the game. For example, let's say name, string, text. So we will talk about the text first. So text are like, it's like the constant strings. That is, for example, I will tell with a gameplay example. Let's say if you are playing a game, there will be a cutscene or there will be a subtitles you can see. So that subtitles will change based on the language you have choose in your main menu. For example, let's say if I click the English, then the subtitles will be in the English. If I click my language, if it was available within the game, then it will change. The subtitles will be now in your language, selected language. So those things are called as localization. So text are used for UI purpose. Okay. For example, if you need to display something on your screen, the text will be used. So we will move on to the name. So name is the special variable, which means they are immutable and cannot be changed at the runtime. What does it mean? For example, let's say I will have a, I can go here and you can see this is my asset. What is it? It was my blueprint class. Where it was content browser, and we already know inside the content browser our project files will be there. Like I said, I need to load it in the dynamic manner. Okay. For example, I can give a two picture in the screen. I am asking the user to select any of the picture, which based on the image the user selected, then the respective characters will be loaded dynamically. Okay, so if you keenly observe here, the path of this asset will remain constant. Like for example, game, third person, and then blueprints. So the path is going to be same. The path won't change and in the runtime until unless you made, if you have the purpose to change them, it won't change. Okay, so for those kind of things you need to use the name data type. Okay, so names are immutable and cannot be changed at the runtime. So you need to use it for mostly for the constant things. So the name variable, actually what will happen inside the Unreal Engine is it will be converted into the hash value. So the comparison will be more faster. Okay, if you need to compare to name, that will be more faster. So that's what people will use it for, identifying the assets, object, or any properties within the Unreal Engine. And we have a limitation that names are only limited to 256 characters, and they were not case sensitive. Okay, and they are not case sensitive, so we should need to care those drawbacks. And finally, we will have a string data type, right? So this is the very primary data type that you need to use. So strings are mutable, and the most useful feature of the strings are they can be modified at the runtime. Okay, so now we have the following operation with the string, which means we can append, we can modify, and we can concatenate two strings as needed. That's depend upon the versatility of the programmer, right? So strings have dynamic length, which means, for example, let's say if I give the path, it can be around 20 or 30 characters, but strings don't have that much of restrictions. If you need to add some few more characters to a string, yes, it's possible because strings are dynamic. They can be mutable as well. So where we need to use the string. So strings are most commonly useful for storing and manipulating the textual data, such as a dynamic text display, and it's based on our need. Okay, for example, we can create a string variable like my character is holding what kind of weapon. It may be a sword, or it may be a pistol, whatever. So those dynamic kinds of thing you can use the string. So that will depend upon the game mechanics. All right, now we will move on to the next data type, which is going to be vector. So a vector is the 3D representation of an object. What does it mean? Now I'm back to the editor window. Here you can see I have three axes. Okay, so we already know that this is the up arrow, which is z axis, and this one, the red color one, it is the forward axis, which is meant by x axis, and finally we have the right one, which is meant by y axis. Okay, so here if I need to talk about the position of this particular object, then I need a variable with the data type called vector. Okay, like I can create a vector, I can drag and drop the variable from here into our event graph. It will ask me two options. We will talk about that. So currently I'm going to use the set. Here you can see x, y, z, which is representing the actual components y, z, or x. Okay, so this is how you need to use the vector data type for describing the position of the object in the game world. Rotator. We know the keyboard shortcut. I'm going to select the object, and then I'm going to press the E key. Now you can see there is the rotator option. If I try to rotate something, so basically this is the cylinder. As we know, commonly in the cylinder, in the mathematics, we can't predict the output of the cylinder that it is rotated or not until unless we have the translation arrow, even because cylinder is looks same from every perspective. Okay, so we can't predict the output as well. So how can I say my cylinder is now rotated? You need to go for the, you need to toggle the axis here. So this is now currently in the world mode. Now I'm going to change it in the local space. Now you can see the forward vector is not straight, which means the cylinder is rotated slightly. Or you can select the object in the outliner or maybe inside the viewport, and you can go for the details panel. Here you can see the rotation value. Okay, I'm going to undo the change using this arrow. I'm going to save it. So for describing the rotation kind of things like vector, rotator is describing the rotation of the object. Alright. So now next one is transform. Transform means it is the combination of vector, rotator and then scale. So we have the combined data of vector, rotator and scale axis. So together we will call it as transform. Alright. So next thing is structure. So structure, so this is the quite bit intermediate concept we will see later in this course. And interface you already know, we can drag and drop the interfaces that is available right now, and this is also we will see later in the course. And object type, before knowing the object type we should need to clear with what are the functions and variables. So we will see that in the next lectures. Okay, enums. Now enums, so enums are special kind of variables where you need to understand when you need to use those variables. Enums, I personally use it for describing the state of the object. For example, let's say um, for the character, I need my character to know that is my character is running or is my character is jumping. So I can't just describe that, okay, my character is jumping, my character is running. I don't need it to confuse it with the boolean kind of things like my cat is jumping or not, my cat is walking or not. Okay, a combination of sometimes a combination of state will give me some other state. I need a separation, I need a good code practice. For those kind of things I can use the enums. Okay, so we will see a live example of how to use the enums in the future. Alright, so now I need you guys to understand what are the primary data types that we mostly use in the Unreal Engine so far. And now we will get into the event graph, how we are going to use the variable. Like I said, in the in the variable section, I'm going to drag and drop here. Here now we are going to talk about the topic which is getter and setter for the variable. Getter. So what is meant by getter? Get means you actually try to read what is the current state of data inside the variable. For example, variables can change its data during the runtime, that depends upon the need of the programmer. Okay, like currently what is the value of the damage? It is the vector data type, but I need it in the integer. Change variable type. Okay, if you are going to change the variable type, you can select it here. So it will ask for this option. Okay, just ignore this and you need to change the variable type. If we give it, automatically the variable will be changed. So currently I'm going to use the integer data type. Yes. So what is the current value of the damage? We doesn't give any value for the damage, right? I'm going to give compile so that my values will, the changes will apply for my variable. We already know that what is the use of compile button. So we need to give the compile. If we make any change, we need to give the compile. All right. Now we can see here in the details panel, the last one, default value. Here damage is now 0, which means in the starting itself, the value will be 0. We didn't set any value for the damage, so it will be 0 in the starting. So get means if I drag and drop the variable, get means you just need to know what is the current data the variable is holding. If I going to set means I'm going to change the data of that variable. For example, let's say if I have the set option, okay, once again I'm going to drag and drop here and I'm going to give the set option. So here you can see I'm going to connect this node. I will explain the connection, wait a minute. So damage, I'm going to set the value. So here I'm going to set it as 10, 10, and you know that, compile. That's all. Now value is set to 10. So this is how you will change the data of the variable. All right. Now I'm going to tell you guys the very basic shortcuts that you will probably use almost all the time in the Unreal Engine. Like we are drag and drop and sorry, we are drag and drop and seeing those options, right? Instead of that, now I'm going to get the damage variable by holding the control, okay, control key, and I'm trying to drag and drop. So it means you are trying to get the variable. The Unreal Engine will automatically understand this. And now I'm going to hold the Alt key and then I'm going to drag and drop. It is going to set the variable. So control key for get and Alt key for set. By holding the respective keys and dragging them to the event graph, you will get the getter or setter type. Alright. Now we can conclude the topic by going into the details panel. Now if I click the variable and I go to the details panel, so these are the common options that you can see with the variable. But like I said, based on the type of the variable you had, like for example, if you have any object variable, then the properties will differ. Alright. So now I'm going to select the integer variable. Now I'm going to explain the common things. Alright. So variable name. So this one describes the name of the variable. As the name suggests, you already know. And variable type, you can change the variable type here as well as here by selecting the variable in the variable section. And then I need to go for the variable type. Alright. If I get given the description, then if I hover over the variable, it will show me the description. Now, instance editable. What does it mean by instance? We will see about that in the next video. And blueprint read only. So this means if I click the read only, okay, and I need to give the compile. So read only means you are only trying to get the value which is stored inside the variable. You can't able to set it. Like I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut now. I'm holding the Alt key and I'm trying to drag and drop. Here you can see the error that variable damage is read only. You cannot set this variable. So this is what the purpose of blueprint read only. Some variables are sensitive for the particular blueprint. You need to make it as only read only. So this use case will happen a lot of the times in the programming. When we are doing the project, we will use those variable a lot of the times. Okay. And expose and spawn. This is also we need to understand some other things in order to utilize those very efficiently. And private, we will talk about those. And expose to cinematics, that is completely a different concept. And what is the category? So now here I'm going to I told you guys, right, what is maybe a component category. So you can can select the variable and then you can go for the category option. There I'm going to give as essential. Essential. There you go. Now you can see there is a new category which is called essential. Okay. So you can see we can define the category so that in future we have lot of different variables. So it's hard to keep track of them. So for that you need to create a category so that you have a drop down. If I close this, that's all. It will give the clean understanding of what the blueprint variables are, what is the purpose of them. Alright. So slider range. Slider range allows you to set the value of the variable. For example, I'm going to give start from 1 and my maximum slider is 100. Compile. So is it mean like I'm holding the Alt key and I'm going to set the variable. Do you think like if I can give here, then what is the purpose of this? Okay, so I can give the variable here, then what will be my purpose here? If you see here, if you go for the default value, if you try to increase the value, it won't go beyond 100. So that is the purpose of slider range. Okay, you need to go for the select the variable, go for the details panel, and if you need to change any value, default value, if you have the slider range, then that won't allow to go beyond. Okay, that won't allow you to go beyond. By default, now I'm going to change the value to 0. Alright. So value range. So value range is the actual one that you need to consider when you are trying to do something in the design manner. Example, and now I'm going to give 1 to 100 here. Okay, like this here. I'm going to drag and drop and I'm going to set the value and I'm going to give it as 1000. So this will take the same thing, we can able to set the value to the 1000. So these operations are done in the runtime. So we can't able to control it here with any of those properties. If you need to control the value that should not go beyond the 100, you need to use a special node called clamp. We will see those later. Okay, but then what does this mean? It means if I am going to, I'm not using the slider like this, I'm not using this slider anymore. Okay, I'm just going to manually input my default value as 150. It won't allow me. Okay, that's the use of value range. Bitmask. So Bitmask is a kind of some advanced concept. We will talk about that because Bitmask is easy to understand, but how can you able to use it? That's the matter. All right. So replication. This talks about the. So this is the so far Unreal's advanced topic, which is made by multiplayer. So it will deal about the multiplayer replication condition. And what are the advanced things is it transient? So transient means I will give you the glimpse, guys. Okay, you don't need to worry about that and don't confuse too much. Transient means this variable won't get serialized and it could not it doesn't need to save. So it's like a temporary variable, you don't need to save. Okay, and uh, save game. So save game means this variable should need to include it in the save game or not. In the save game mechanics, you need this. Okay, and other things are not that much useful. So this is the common things that you will see when we talk about the variables. We will see those common things, and in the next thing, I need to now show you guys some interaction. Okay, event begin play. So these are called as events. So event begin play means when you start the game, this one will get fired. This node, we will call it as node. This node will get fired very starting. Okay, I'm going to drag and drop the damage. I'm holding the control now. So I'm going to print this variable on the screen. So I'm going to use the right click on the blueprint editor and I'm going to type print string. Okay, so if you click the print string, you can see this is the function and I'm going to connect those things. And in the print string and in the parameter, I'm going to connect it, compile. I'm going to increase the duration of 5. Don't worry, we will see all those things in the detail in the next class, in the next lecture. We will see all those things in the detail. Print string. Now I'm going to press the play button. There in the top left corner here, you can see the value. Okay, which means what is the damage starting value we have given. By default we have given 100. Okay, so in the top left corner you will see the 100 is highlighted. Okay, after the duration of 5 seconds it will be deleted. So that's what we given the duration. All right, now in the next lecture we will talk about the functions and how what is meant by this print string, and if it was a function, then how can we create our own function and do those stuffs. Okay, we will start creating the things meaningfully from the next lecture. But before that, I need you guys to understand that what is the things, what is meant by variables, what is meant by data types, and what is the details panel will do, and what are the common options, and what is the keyboard shortcut for getting the value and setting the value, and what is the purpose of getting the value, and what is the purpose of setting the value. So you guys need to be clear with all the basic things, right? So let's meet in the next lecture. Thank you. We will continue with the functions. Before that, I'm going to delete those things, right? Appel. So we can see in the next lecture. Thank you so much, guys.